From KQED and the San Francisco Chronicle, this is the 2024 San Francisco Mayoral Debate. In the first mayoral election since the pandemic, San Francisco is at a crossroads. The next mayor will face many challenges: homelessness, drug overdoses, public safety, and the high cost of living in the Bay Area. Tonight, the 5 leading candidates share their visions for the city's future. Incumbent San Francisco Mayor London Breed, former interim San Francisco Mayor Mark Farrell, San Francisco Supervisor from District 11 Ahsha Safai, nonprofit executive Daniel Lurie, and Board of Supervisors President Peskin. The winner of November 5th's ranked choice election will set an agenda affecting the lives of more than 800,000 residents. Now the candidates share a stage just days before voting begins. Coming to you from KQED headquarters in the city's Mission District, here are your moderators, KQED's Scott Schaefer and Marisa Lagos, and the San Francisco Chronicle's Joe Garofoli.
Good evening and welcome to this debate among the leading candidates for mayor of San Francisco. I'm Scott Schaefer from KQED News. Well, voters here are facing a very important choice this election: who will lead the city for the next 4 years. The top 5 candidates for the job, including the incumbent, are here tonight to answer our questions about some of the pressing issues facing the city. Before we get started, the rules for tonight's hour-long debate. The order of speakers for the first and last rounds was randomly determined. Tonight's questions were developed by the moderators. No questions were shared with the candidates or their campaigns. For each question, the candidate gets up to 90 seconds to answer. There's a time clock. They can see it, and we're going to enforce that time limit. The moderators have the right to interrupt if we feel a candidate is not answering the question or ask a follow-up question. If a candidate's name or actions in office are invoked, we have the option of giving that candidate 30 seconds for a rebuttal. And finally, candidates will have up to 1 minute for a closing statement. And we ask our studio audience to please hold their applause until the end of tonight's debate. With that, let's get started. Marisa?
Thanks, Scott. Mayor London Breed, last week Human Rights Commission Director Cheryl Davis resigned after reporting revealed serious questions about the legality of your Dream Keepers initiative spending. This is not the first ethics scandal involving City Hall since you've been mayor. The heads of 2 city departments are in prison for bribery scandals, and ultimately the buck stops with you. So why did it take media probes and federal investigations for these issues to come to light? Are you willing to hold your friends accountable?
To be perfectly clear, San Francisco has 34,000 employees, and from time to time, we have had challenges with some of them. And I want to be very clear. I have held myself accountable. I immediately asked for and received her resignation, and even before this probe started, we had already paused funding on issuing funding out of the Dreamkeeper initiative. And more importantly, we had already started making sure that we are combing through with our controller's office every item to ensure that this very valuable program is not compromised. But the fact is, some of my opponents on this stage thinks that investing in the African American community wasn't a good idea and isn't a good idea. And tell that to the people who have been able to buy their first homes in San Francisco. Tell that to the people who don't have angel investors or were born with a silver spoon in their mouths and can't purchase or provide their own new businesses in San Francisco, and a number of the organizations and even city EMT that has provided opportunities for native San Franciscans to be firefighters in this city. I will do everything I can, and I have from day one, with a number of executive directives and appointing new ethical leadership, people like Dennis Herrera, Carmen Chu, David Chu, and others, to help us lead this city when we're faced with challenges of this nature.
All right,
and that is my goal in everything that I do here in the city.
Thank you. Ahsha Safai, you've been in office since 2017. You have ties to a developer that pled guilty earlier this year to bribing public officials in exchange for expedited building permits. But you spent a lot of this campaign talking about City Hall corruption. After 7 years in office, what have you done as supervisor to root out malfeasance and change the culture at City Hall?
So before I get started, I want to just say a little bit about who I am. I'm a proud immigrant. I came to this country fleeing violence when I was 6 years old. I was raised by a single mom who's joined me here tonight. I'm a proud dad, father of 2, a daughter and a son. put myself through college, went to MIT for city planning, and this has really informed all the work that I've done in this city. And you're absolutely right. Corruption has imbued this mayor's administration since day one. And what I did is 2.5 years ago, I ran a ballot measure that said we are going to do mandatory audits of programming that deals with our Department of Homeless Services and Housing. That's a department that started out at $100 million and has grown to over $700 million. And I don't think anyone believes that the conditions with homelessness crisis have gotten better. They've only gotten worse. So when we did our mandatory audits, spring of last year, the very first one that was done, they had to call in the FBI because the group was selling vouchers to friends and family. The second audit that happened, it was invoices that were being submitted to the city for work that was never done. So I have led a charge to do mandatory audits and bring accountability. And this mayor did not support that measure. She did not support bringing additional oversight and accountability. And the people that suffer the most are working and middle-class families, those that are struggling to get by in this city and don't get the city services that they deserve.
London Breed, you were invoked. You may respond.
I want to be very clear. From day one in 2018, when I became mayor and issued the first executive directive, what the supervisor is talking about was already in place. Most of the time, the policies that he tries to implement are duplication of what I'm already doing. It's redundant. That work was happening, and the reason why we were able to catch many of these cases involving problems of corruption has everything to do with the systems that I have already put in place.
All right, thank you. Daniel Lurie, you've criticized other candidates on this stage for being part of the old political guard in San Francisco, but you and your family are part of the financial old guard here. Your connections to them have helped fuel your ability to raise money for Tipping Point and the Super Bowl, and it's how you're funding your campaign. So how would you push back on the economic interests that dominate San Francisco, and many of whom are family, friends, and associates?
Marisa, thank you. I am proud of my record of executive management experience. I'll put it up against anybody on this stage. I had to challenge the status quo when it came to starting Tipping Point. No one thought that we could do it, and we've turned it into one of the largest, most innovative poverty-fighting organizations in this country that holds nonprofits accountable and gets results. And if a group is not performing, we cut funding and move on to organizations that are high-performing. Same thing with Super Bowl. No one thought we could make it a community-based event. We made sure that 25% of every single dollar that we raised from corporations went back to community. We put $13 million back into community. And I'll put, once again, my track record of investing in community in this city up against anybody. We've also built housing on time.
I'm asking about your ties, though, and whether
Marisa, I'm telling you, my ties have been all about investing in San Francisco, investing in this community, providing opportunities for young people, no matter the zip code that they were born into, for early childhood education. Since 2015, Tipping Point has housed over 40,000 people. So yes, I've used what I've had at my disposal to invest in community, and I want to do the same thing as your next mayor.
Thank you, Daniel Lurie. Mark Farrell, since your first campaign for office through today, you've been accused of playing fast and loose with campaign finance rules. It's all related to raising money from your wealthy friends, and you say you follow the law. But in a city that has been rocked by all these corruption scandals, why should voters trust you to clean house?
Because every single thing that I've ever done with my campaigns has been approved, vetted by, and signed off by my attorneys. Every single time.
That doesn't mean it's necessarily legal, though. I mean, that's legal advice. It is not the ultimate world. You paid a record fine in 2016 related to your 2010 campaign.
And with that issue itself, back then, they went through a 3-year investigation, found and concluded after that entire time that I had done nothing wrong and fully exonerated me at the state and the local level. So to me, it's important to follow the rules and follow my attorney's advice, and I will always do that. But let me take a moment to say, as we start here this evening, it's nice to see Mayor Breed finally at a debate after she's been ducking them for the past 2 weeks. It is clear, Mayor Breed, you're going to be here tonight telling the audience in San Francisco that everything's just fine here in the city of San Francisco. But you know what, San Francisco? I'm here to tell you the truth. There's no mayor that has overseen a steeper decline in our city's history than London Breed. Crime is at record levels, and public safety is the #1 concern across the board. Homelessness is rising once again. Our economy is stuck in the mud. Neighborhoods are held hostage by open-air drug markets, and we have not met our housing goals any single year. It is clear why you are skipping debates, and it is why we need a change of leadership inside of City Hall.
London Breed, you have 30 seconds.
Well, first of all, unlike some of my opponents on this stage, I actually have a job, number one. Number two, to be very clear, crime is lower than it's been in over a decade. And in fact, property crime was 70% higher when Mark was temporary mayor. Car break-ins were 150% higher when he was temporary mayor, and violent crime was almost 40% higher. Tent encampments were over 60% higher. So he wants to say that I've overseen one of the most challenging times and not delivered the results. My results speak for themselves. We have record low crime rates. We are seeing our city bounce back, and he is trying to take us backwards, and we are not going back.
Over time.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Thank you. If you believe those stats, I got a bridge to sell you. The reality is here in San Francisco, Mayor Breed has overseen an incredible decline in our city government. Defunded our police department $120 million 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Police staffing levels down over 25%. Homeless tent encampments on the rise, completely ineffective with our homeless situation on our streets. And our economy is ranked dead last in the United States right now in economic recovery post-COVID. That is not a track record of success. That is a track record of failure, and that is why we need to turn the page on her failed leadership for the next 4 years.
All right, we're going to move on to Aaron Peskin. We'll come back to a lot of those policy areas. Mr. Peskin, your campaign is based on protecting the little guy, renters, low-income San Franciscans' neighborhood interest. But many of your neighbors in Telegraph Hill and North Beach are campaign donors, and they've benefited from a lot of your votes to block developments that might have blocked their views. How does that help protect against gentrification for the average San Franciscan?
Listen, Marissa, while these guys are busy playing the blame game and pointing fingers at each other, I am the only candidate on this stage that has consistently done the work around public corruption. I led the effort to make Recology refund $120 million to small businesses and residential customers after they stole it. And then I passed Proposition F to finally regulate Recology appropriately, while Mark Farrell was laundering money from them through his nonprofit, or through a nonprofit that his wife was on the board of. And now we just found out that Mayor Breed knew about the alleged illegal activities of her very close friend and political mentee, Cheryl Davis. I authored Proposition C on this November's ballot to combat corruption and establish the national gold standard, an office of the Inspector General with the power of subpoena and search warrant. And frankly, I am shocked that Supervisor Safai and myself are the only candidates on this stage to have endorsed Proposition C, especially given the allegations made this morning in the San Francisco Chronicle about London Breed expediting Mark Farrell's building permits, showing that they're the ones who need Prop C the most. And Mr. Lurie, while you berate City Hall insiders, you have your own record to defend, spending almost $5 million on charity money on lavish parties for your wealthy friends. Is that the kind of mayor you're going to be?
Mr.
Where to
Lurie, you have
start,
30
Marisa?
seconds.
Where to start? Our record at Tipping Point is one I am incredibly proud of. We've raised over $500 million to tackle issues of housing and homelessness and early childhood education. My board at Tipping Point paid for all overhead, and I am so proud of our record there. We have such a better track record of getting things done than these City Hall insiders. 40,000 people housed since 2015, and at a fraction of the cost and a fraction of the time it takes these insiders to do the
All
same
right,
thing.
we're going to move on. Joe?
Daniel Lurie, you have pointed repeatedly, in fact, just a moment ago, to a supportive housing project funded by your nonprofit Tipping Point at 833 Bryant,
Yes,
as evidence that you can get housing built fast and cheap, in part because the project used prefabricated construction. But prefab projects are rare, and workers in prefab factories earn less than building trade union workers. How can you really scale this idea while also ensuring that the workers who build these units make enough to afford to live in San Francisco themselves?
It was built by 13 different unions. It was 100% union made, on time, under budget, with good paying union labor. It cost $377,000 a unit. It took us 3 years. Compare that with the average cost it takes the city to do the same type of project. 7 years, $1.2 million. The reason that we have an affordability crisis in this city is because of these City Hall insiders creating a Byzantine, bureaucratic, and corrupt permitting process that takes 33 months to get through permitting. The White House just smacked us down and said it takes longer here than any other city in the country. If we want our young families to think about staying here long term, if we want our teachers to be staying here, we have to get more affordable housing built. That project has already been replicated and is being built for same type of project, 135 units of senior housing at Cesar Chavez and Valencia Street. The mayor actually cut the ribbon to it just a few weeks ago. It is being replicated. I will continue to replicate that model using good paying union labor. And I have friends, people on this stage, going after union-made buildings. That's unacceptable to me.
Aaron Peskin, you say you have approved more housing than anyone on this stage, but you've also opposed many projects, like when you voted down a project to build almost 500 units, including 73 affordable units on what was a Nordstrom valet parking lot. It remains a parking lot today. You said you opposed it because low-income neighbors feared gentrification. When should the city override local opposition?
Joe, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I think we need to reject the narrative of the real estate speculators and developers. And let me actually correct just slightly the record. I have voted to approve more housing at all income levels all over this city than every candidate on this stage combined, over 100,000 units. But I did that by working with neighborhoods, not against neighborhoods. In my own district, I've built every kind of housing, affordable housing, homeless shelters, market rate housing, and I have never, not once, voted against any affordable housing. I am the only candidate in this race who supports expanding rent control. And unlike my opponents, I have an actual plan to build the middle-income affordable housing that San Francisco so desperately needs. Not a lot of people know this, but there are over 73,000 shovel-ready, fully entitled units that aren't being built because interest rates are too high. My plan provides for lower interest rates for construction that will finally open up that pipeline. But I do it by working with neighborhoods, not against them.
Time. Ahsha, Safai, your plans to build housing or shelter beds are contingent on interest rates dropping appreciably. We saw the Fed had a big rate cut this week. But what's your plan B if interest rates don't drop enough to entice developers to build in San Francisco?
So we put forward a piece of legislation that we just passed probably 2 weeks ago. I think the mayor just signed it. And what it did is said, we're going to use union pension dollars. All of the major projects in San Francisco use union pension dollars that are usually at 25 units or above. So we're saying on those projects, we're going to lower the transfer tax that was raised a few years ago. We're going to lower it just for those projects. We're going to build affordable housing on site. We're going to use wall-to-wall union labor, because that was really what your question was before, Joe. It wasn't talking about modular housing, was how we can replicate it, because that is not replicable really in San Francisco. But we are going to build union jobs. We're going to build housing on site. We're going to put union members to work, and we're going to build a lot of housing. That is going to make a significant impact. The other thing that we did, and I worked on this with Supervisor Peskin recently, is we lowered the inclusionary housing rate. We're doing everything we can. We're pulling every trigger to make sure that we can build more housing and we can build it quicker.
Okay. Scott, you're up.
London Breed, I want to ask you about a particular case involving someone named Ramon Castillo. As the Chronicle reported recently, his tent was cleared just a few blocks from here in the Mission. He was approached by police, refused housing. His tent and belongings were thrown away. He was put in a police car for about 20 minutes, given a misdemeanor citation, and released. What do clearings like that and this policy in general accomplish?
I want to be very clear that since I've been in office, we have helped get over 20,000 people off the streets of San Francisco. We have increased our shelter capacity by more than 70%. We have increased our permanent supportive housing units by over 50%. And in fact, one of the biggest challenges that we've had over the years in clearing encampments came because of a lawsuit by an organization called the Homeless Coalition, an organization funded by Daniel Lurie, an organization that continues to pay to put tents out on the streets so people can refuse the support that we are offering them. Now that we have had changes in our laws, we are going to do everything we can when people refuse service to make sure that they understand that the only option they have is to accept our help and to accept our support.
But looking at numbers even today, there are more than 300 tents and encampments in San Francisco, including one a half a block from here.
And when I took office, there were more than 600. We are continuing to do everything we can to clear these encampments. And when you look at the time that we started these counts to where we are now, we are starting to see a decline. And our officers and our street crisis response team and other groups that are out on the streets, we are doing everything we can to make sure that people are so uncomfortable that they take us up on our offer to go indoors.
Daniel Lurie, 30 seconds.
I mean, we all, if you're watching at home, you see what the City Hall insiders are doing. They're circling the wagons. They are so scared of somebody coming from outside this broken system that has failed to deliver on clearing our streets, on public safety, on corruption. At every single level, they have failed, and now they're trying to attack me. I can take it, but can you take 4 more years of it?
Mark Farrell. State housing law requires that city leaders work to increase affordable housing in wealthy neighborhoods that have often been exclusionary, like your home district of the Marina. Doesn't your plan to focus development on downtown and SoMa violate state housing law?
Absolutely not. And let me be super clear with you. I am considering and I am talking about in my campaign and laid out a vision to build housing in every single neighborhood in San Francisco. I will put my housing track record up against anybody's.
Where would you put
my
housing
district.
in your own district now?
So in my own district, we're about to break ground in the next year or two on 3 projects that I kickstarted that will build over 1,000 units of new housing, more units of housing on the north side of San Francisco than any time in our city's history. The CPMC site at 3700 California, UCSF's Laurel Heights site at 3333 California, and then the Lucky Penny site at Masonic and Geary. To me, that's a track record to be proud of. But yes, I believe we need to build housing in every single neighborhood. But I also believe the greatest opportunity for density and for more units is in the downtown, south of Market, and Mission Bay cores. Incredibly dense environments already, best served by regional and local transit. But we need to build along transit corridors. We need to support legislation in different districts, like Supervisor and Guardio's corner lot legislation, like the 4 to 6-plex legislation in District 8. But the reality is, some of my opponents are proposing upzoning the entire city. I don't believe the Sunset should look like downtown. I believe the character of our city is found in our neighborhoods. I believe we need to build housing everywhere, but the greatest opportunity is in that downtown and south of Market core.
Thank you. Daniel Lurie, you're very critical of the city's response to homelessness, but your own nonprofit Tipping Point invested $100 million over 5 years to cut chronic homelessness by 50%. And while there was some progress, your own evaluation said, quote, the scale of inflow of homeless people far outweighed the available resources and programs to meet the need. If your own program was unable to meet its goals, why should voters believe that you could manage a much larger homeless effort citywide?
Listen, at Tipping Point, we pride ourselves on taking on big, bold, audacious challenges. We went after the toughest to serve population in the chronic homelessness population. 2,000 people at that time were living chronically homeless, been out on the street for more than a year. I'm really proud of our track record. We've talked about 833 Bryant. We also helped stand up 78 units of transitional shelter at 33 Goff for $34,000 a unit. The city and county took us up on that model, replicated it, but it cost $113,000 a unit to do that. So once again, I said this before, we've housed over 40,000 people since 2015, prevented thousands more from falling into homelessness. We've always wished we had a stronger partner at the city. I'm going to put my track record of tackling the homeless issue up against any single person. Now, I will also say, in my first 6 months, we're going to stand up 1,500 emergency shelter beds to make sure they're safe, they're dignified, and we give people...
How are you going to pay for that?
Well, we spend $700 million a year on our behavioral health system right now. There is savings that we can make with people getting 5150'd. 13,000 times last year, Scott, someone got 5150'd in a 12-month period. They go through the most expensive part of our public health care system, and 64% of them were released to the street. We're going to have care coordinators at our 8 emergency rooms making sure...
Thank you.
You cut into my 90, so let me finish.
3 seconds, 5 seconds, go ahead.
We have care coordinators making sure we get people into more mental health and drug treatment beds. We have to build out the continuum of care. We have focused so much on harm reduction to the exclusion of getting people into treatment, and I will do that.
Thank you. Marisa?
Mark Farrell, after 49ers rookie Ricky Pearsall was shot near Union Square last month, you blame Mayor Breed's policies. But when you were interim mayor, there were 18 homicides in the 6 months you were mayor, 2,700 robberies and assaults. Is it fair to blame you for those crimes since you were in charge at that time? And if not, do you owe Mayor Breed an apology?
Absolutely not. Mayor Breed owes the city of San Francisco an apology. The reality is, during my time in office as budget chair, I partnered with Mayor Lee for 4 years. And then the next year, when I became interim mayor, we grew our police department to record staffing levels. We had over 2,300 officers on our police force at that time. Since I left office in the last 6 years, we're down close to 600 officers, which means that over 25% of our police department has essentially been eviscerated since I left. That is not a commitment to public safety. And Marisa, the difference is, I believe the #1 job of government is to protect our residents. This mayor instead defunded the police department 3 years ago. This mayor has overseen a department with a decline of the number of police officers and also cannot recruit. When I was there as budget chair and mayor, we had over 5 police academy classes a year with over 50 recruits per class. This mayor has averaged 3 police academy classes a year with just 17 recruits. That is not a commitment to public safety. That is why not only we need a new mayor here in the city of San Francisco, but we also need a new police chief. Somebody that's going to fight with me as mayor to grow the police department budget once again, to once again grow the police academy, and to once again grow staffing and push back against the police commission that is making it incredibly difficult for the police officers to do their job on the streets of San Francisco every single day. Public safety is my #1 commitment, always has been and always will be.
Mayor Breed?
So I don't know why we're still listening to Mark Farrell talk about what he's done, the same thing over and over again. The fact is, crime is at its lowest level that it's been in 10 years. My budget is $200 million higher than his budget when he served as temporary mayor. I have provided the police officers with the support and the 21st century technology that they need to do their jobs, which is why crime's down in the first place. And the Police Officers Association endorsed me only.
Thank you. Ahsha Safai, you've said that you want to increase police foot patrols. San Francisco is facing a budget shortfall of up to $1 billion ongoing in years ahead. So where is the money for that? What would you cut? Would you trade off, say, responding to 911 calls, which is what these officers are doing now?
You know what bothers me the most listening to the mayor is that to consistently tell people crime is down is gaslighting. Go tell that to the small businesses in my district. For the last 3 weeks have literally been broken into almost every night from between 1 and 5 a.m. Tell that to the worker that was trying to come home, hotel worker, 42 years, worked for the Westin St. Francis, and was pushed into a moving train on a BART platform. Crime is happening at a brazen level. Crime statistically might be down, but property crime is not. And that's what makes people the angriest. To hear that crime is down, things are getting better. Yes, they might be on the number side, but people don't feel it because they're seeing it on a daily basis. The way I would pay for community policing, proactive community policing, which I passed in January, and this mayor has not led on or implemented, is we spend millions on overtime. Last year in the budget, we approved 300 plus officers. When they didn't get hired, all that money turns into overtime. That's why I put Proposition N on the ballot. We're going to deal with all of the shortfalls in public safety. It's not just police officers. It's 911 call operators. We're down 40 out of 120. only answering the phone 71% of the time. We're down nurses, deputy sheriffs, paramedics, firefighters. Proposition N will allow them to have student loan forgiveness and recruit them at an aggressive level. We have to do that today, and we got to stop gaslighting the hardworking people of San Francisco.
Mayor Breed, would you like to respond?
To be very clear, I understand my job as mayor and what it means to keep people safe. This is a major city, and major cities have challenges. And just like what happened in the Ricky Pearsall shooting, the police were on that scene less than a minute to make the arrest, and our district attorney filed charges. We have increased our capacity. We have built our 21st century technology out, drone surveillance and other things. One of the reasons why we are seeing such a major difference is because of the work that I have done, and we will continue to build upon that work to make sure that people actually feel safe in this city.
I want to stick with you. I'm kind of from another angle on public safety. You have ordered the arrest of more drug users. You're supporting Proposition 36, which would put more people in jail for drug possession and shoplifting and other thefts. Our city's jail population is on the rise this year, and the crowding has come with more fights and attacks on deputies. Why didn't you see this problem coming, and won't something like Prop 36 potentially make it worse?
Well, to be very clear, recruitment for law enforcement agencies all over the country are suffering. But the good news is that with the San Francisco Police Department, we are seeing applications come back to a pre-pandemic level. And more importantly, the work we've done for alternatives to policing has allowed our officers to focus on the important work they need to do rather than responding to wellness checks or dealing with those folks who are in crisis on our streets. And what I am most proud of is that that has allowed our officers to focus on the work that they need to do. As it relates to the jails, we have provided additional resources to the sheriff, who is elected to have academy classes. The sheriff has actually not just helped us with the jail population and the challenges that exist there, but he's also been a part of our coordinated efforts to make those arrests in the Tenderloin, to deal with those warrants and other things we've needed to do. Never in our city's history have we had such a coordinated effort with our state and our federal law enforcement agencies to help us combat what is a national crisis around drugs in this country, which is even being talked about on the national stage. And fortunately for us, we have built the capacity. We have more work to do, but we are starting to see the numbers rebound.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron Peskin, you are supporting two ballot measures this year. One would lower the retirement age for firefighters. Another would let police officers who delay their retirement both collect a salary and pension benefits, known as double dipping. These are both going to cost taxpayers millions. Are you supporting these programs only because you're running this for mayor? I mean, we've tried this before and it didn't work.
Listen, Marissa, there are a lot of candidates on this stage who talk tough. But in my experience, the tough talkers don't get the job done. What we need is tough management and a balanced approach. And let me say that I've been working with the officers at Central Station, the captains at Central Station for 25 years, and they know my work. And that's why I'm proud that so many of them are supporting me for mayor. Second of all, police retention and recruitment is very, very important. And I am the co-author of Proposition F on this November's ballot to retain 50 officers because, and as Mayor Breed said, this is not unique to San Francisco. We need to recruit more officers. I voted to increase the police department's budget by over $100 million since I became board president. And with Supervisor Safai, am working on a program to recruit folks from our communities using forgivable college loans. But I also know that this is not just about police staffing. A balanced approach also means, and I experienced this in 2008 when I was president of the board, when our homicide rate crept up to almost 100, that and I led the effort at that time, to actually fund job programs for at-risk youth, gun buyback programs, violence prevention programs. And the next year in 2009, our homicide rate dropped by more than half. So it's easy to talk tough, but what we need is tough management and a balanced approach.
Thank you. Scott?
Aaron Peskin, we're going to stay with you here. Over the years, you've been accused of making drunken, late-night phone calls to city staff, threatened people's jobs, bragged about political payback. You said that a lot of this was fueled by alcohol and that you're now in recovery. What, if anything, do you think that you have to apologize for? And why should voters trust you to run the entire city given your history of toxic behavior as a supervisor?
So, Scott, first of all, I want to remind everybody that I've been elected 5 times by the good people of Chinatown and North Beach in the northeast corner of this city, and that my colleagues have elected me 3 times to be president of the board, twice unanimously. There are many things that I have done in office that I'm very proud of, and some that I'm not proud of, but I've taken accountability for those issues, and I am grateful to be in recovery, and I am grateful to the community that has shown me the love and support to get me there. And I've learned a lot from that experience of recovery, and that is part of what I want to bring to the mayor's office and to the people of San Francisco. We are a city, as we talk about drug and behavioral changes, that embraces second chances. And I am a person who has lived that, and I want to bring that to the rest of San Francisco.
Thank you. Daniel Lurie, you've said Mayor Breed has run San Francisco into the ground, but she also led the city through the COVID pandemic. The city had one of the lowest death rates and highest vaccination rates in the nation. There was no playbook for that. Mayors do have to deal with unanticipated crises. If you had been in charge during that period of time, how would you have handled the COVID crisis differently?
We actually talked during COVID. I offered my support to this mayor. I thought she did a very good job in the early months of it. But we stayed shut down for far too long. Our public schools stayed shut down for far too long. And we started politicizing every single thing in the city. And everything became a food fight, which we see too often from these city hall insiders. So I give her credit for the first bit of COVID, but we're past it now. We're in 2024. We have the slowest recovery of every major city in this country. We tell people that we're from San Francisco now. You go to LA, you go to New York, you go somewhere else, and they go, "Are you okay? Are you safe?" She had her chance. It is time to turn the page on this mayor and all the city hall insiders that I'm running against.
Mayor Breed, 30 seconds.
Well, you know, Daniel Lurie is probably one of the most dangerous people on this stage, so we definitely should be scared. He has absolutely zero experience. And when you think about it, this is a major city with serious problems where anything can happen at any given moment. Pandemics, major fires, earthquakes, heaven forbid, a terrorist attack. And what is he going to do with his one experienced job? He hasn't even been employed for the past 5 years. What does he know? And not to mention, I don't even remember that phone call.
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't remember.
We're just going to, okay,
yeah.
We're just going to make stuff up
I just don't.
now. Okay.
I just don't remember.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Right. Mark
You had
Farrell.
multiple phone calls.
Question to you, Mark Farrell. Many San Franciscans make all kinds of sacrifices to live here. Working more than one job, taking on debt, paying more than their half of their monthly salary for rent, foregoing vacations to save money for their kids' college education, caring for a parent who can't live on their own. Thinking of your own life, what kind of sacrifices have you made?
That's a great question. I will tell you, I'm incredibly proud of not only my upbringing. My parents came from nothing. My mom came from a poor farming community in the north part of Germany. Her farm was bombed out during World War II. My dad grew up as the son of a New York City police officer in a poor family in Queens. No car, no TV. They met during the war over in Vietnam and moved to San Francisco in 1969 and rented a flat in the marina for $200 a month so they could use the Presidio as an army base to eat and shop cheaply. 5 years later, I came along, and I grew up as a military kid using the Presidio as an army base so we could not eat and shop cheaply as a family. That sports basement down there on Chrissy Field is where I shopped for groceries as a kid. And unlike other people on this stage, I actually took out loans to go to grad school. I'm still paying them off. My success professionally is everything that I have earned and everything that I have worked incredibly hard for. Ask my wife and my children. We've sacrificed. I've worked 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks for years at a time. I'm incredibly proud of the sacrifices that I made professionally so that I could provide for my family and give them a better life. And there is nothing that I'm more proud of than my family. And aside from my family, The only greater thing that I will fight for is the city of San Francisco. That is my commitment.
Thank you. London Breed, you stood outside or inside City Hall in December of 2021, and you called out the BS that has destroyed our city. One could say that that contributed to the doom loop narrative and broader attack on San Francisco from people like Donald Trump and also by Fox News. Do you have any regrets about how you described San Francisco?
No, I do not. And let's be very clear, Scott. This attack on San Francisco was happening before I said that. And we weren't getting the kind of help we really needed to combat this issue. Fentanyl has been devastating our city and our country, and young people have been dying at alarming rates. I sadly lost a sister to a drug overdose, and when I needed to make some change, I had to make some noise. And what happened as a result of all that is we started to get help. We got help from the Drug Enforcement Agency of the feds and the U.S. Attorney's Office. They have been making incredible inroads on helping us address this issue. And we have brought in the California Highway Patrol and the National Guard, not with people with M16 rifles standing on a corner, but folks who are helping us with intelligence. And we are seeing progress, and people are getting the message that it is not the place that you come for drug tourism. We were drowning, and we needed to pull every single lever to come out of that. And working with the recovery community, it's been extremely helpful in the progress that we are starting to see on the streets of San Francisco. Understanding, of course, there is more work to do, but we are not letting up, and we are doing things that we have never done before, and that's why we're making arrests of dealers, we're making arrests of users, we're getting them into treatment, and we're making more investments in recovery.
Thank you. Ahsha Safai, mayors always face unanticipated crises, anything from an earthquake to a deadly police shooting or a scandal of some kind. You learn about someone's character by how they deal with those things. Thinking of your personal life, not your public life, can you describe an unanticipated crisis that you faced and how you dealt with it and what you learned from it?
So I said it early in the beginning. I'm the only person on this stage that was born into a revolution. I was born in the Middle East. A lot of what you're seeing in that part of the world right now, religious extremism, it's a lot of theory for a lot of people. It impacted my family personally. I had family members that were killed. My mom and I had to flee the country. It was no longer safe for us. So that was my early beginning from a young boy. People always ask me how I got involved in politics. I was born into politics. I was born into crisis, and I've lived that every single day of my life. Listen, having a name like Ahsha, Ali, Safai, half the time people are saying, bless you. What did you say? And I'm like, where are you from? I'm like, I was born in Iran. I'm a proud immigrant. And I have fought every single day for everything that I have. And I have fought for the underdog. That's what my mom taught me. Everything, put myself through school. And I moved to this city. And as you said, emergencies and crisis, I want to go back to that question because I want to really add on to it. We did do good in this city. We came together in this city, and we worked to fight this crisis. But what made me, and it was a turning point between me and the mayor and how I judged her, was when on New Year's Eve, December 2022, we had the worst flood in this city's history. 70 plus years, businesses, homes, people were impacted. A mayor goes, meets with people, talks to people. This mayor got on a plane and went to go party in Las Vegas. That's not what mayors do.
Thank you.
That's not how you lead during
Thank you,
crisis.
Supervisor.
And that is what has informed me my entire career.
Mayor Breed, 30 seconds to respond.
First of all, I have led this city through unprecedented crises. I've actually led this city through a global pandemic in my living room. And in every single instance, I know what is going on in the city. I deal with these challenges head on, and more importantly, I actually grew up in this city in the midst of crisis, spending over 20 years of my life in a neighborhood rocked by gun violence and hopelessness and poverty. I understand all too well what it means, but again,
Thank you.
I have a proven track record and battle-tested of dealing with crisis in this city, and people have seen it firsthand.
Thank you. Joe?
Ahsha Safai, as we talked earlier, you often tout your ties to organized labor. As we know, the most expensive line item in the city budget is employees' salaries and benefits. The city is facing a $1 billion ongoing deficit. How are you going to tell your friends in labor no when you're sitting down to negotiate contracts with them?
Well, listen, that's something that I bring to the job every single day. When we look at our $800 million deficit and dealing with the controversy and the crisis that often comes with negotiating, that's where I lean on my labor experience, and I'm very proud of that. I've represented working people in this city for the last 8 years, and I fought for them for the last 24 every single step of the way. Our budget, we do about $4.5 billion in contracts. Some of them we've talked about tonight. We brought in the mandatory audits and oversight a lot, and I brought in nonprofit accountability. We have great nonprofits in this city, but we also, through those mandatory audits, have started to weed out the bad apples. 4.5 million. Also private contracts. When you look at, and again, I go back to the short staffing with our nurses, just one example. Every single year, the Department of Public Health comes in and says, we want X amount of money, let's say $40 million this last December to hire new nurses, but they never hired them, and they transfer it into overtime and temporary nurses where we pay time and a half for those positions. If we staff up properly, if we audit those contracts, both public and private, and look at the overtime spending, that's where the conversations about negotiating a good, balanced budget and taking care of working people will work itself out in the right way.
Thank you. London Breed, next week, community trains are expected to begin service on Taraval Street for the first time in 5 years. Well, that's great for commuters. Merchants, some of the merchants there are still feeling the effects of this transit improvement project that some local business owners say broke plumbing, damaged storefronts, and led to huge revenue losses. What do you say to these business owners who feel you've put other city priorities over their well-being?
Well, to be very clear, this project was about long-term safety. And from time to time, we're going to have to do projects all over the city. What we don't want to happen is an unexpected sinkhole that happened in Pacific Heights, where many of those businesses suffered from water damage and was closed for months. Part of what we are trying to do in our Dig Once policy is make sure that we get everything done on the front end. But sometimes these projects are delayed. And our response when the merchants brought it to our attention was to make sure that we dealt with each of those cases on an individual basis. Some of them were resolved and some of them are still pending. We've also invested a number of financial resources into helping those small businesses. I have been talking to them directly about many of those challenges. The El Taraval is back and it's working again, but we struggled through that process, and it was still, regardless of what people are trying to say, it was done on time and it was done on budget. And we have to do, in an aging infrastructure system with pipes underneath that are over 100 years old, sometimes, unfortunately, there's going to be a little inconvenience. The people on this stage, they are candidates for mayor. I am mayor, and I have to live with the realities of the decisions we have to make sure that San Francisco is protected and safe long term.
Mark Farrell, you've proposed a small tax credit for downtown businesses that require their employees to come back to the office. At the same time, employees would then have to pay to commute and have longer days and potentially be paying higher childcare costs. You've spoken throughout your campaign about how you will prioritize families in San Francisco. How will this plan pencil out for families?
So let's talk about downtown. Because downtown today is scary. It's a shell of its former self. What do we need to do to resuscitate downtown? We can't continue down the same policies and failed leadership that we have in City Hall right now. It is not working. We need to bring back public safety and clean streets. Think about it, it's the reason why conventions left San Francisco, not because we lost our natural beauty or the amazing neighborhoods adjacent to the convention center like Chinatown that people love to visit. It's because people were being threatened from their hotel to the Moscone Convention Center. We need to bring back those core conditions. Once we do that, we create an environment where employers and employees might want to come back to the downtown core. And then we have to use tax incentives, and I've proposed two. Because we used tax incentives in the mid-market area in the 2010s, and it was working. That neighborhood was thriving when City Hall was focused on it. We have one tax incentive for people that will relocate to that area, and a second tax incentive if people will bring their employees back 4+ days a week into the office. Because you know what we need to do out of City Hall is use our pocketbook to incentivize behavior that we want to see happen on the streets of San Francisco. The scariest part of downtown is it's empty. We're missing the vibrancy that we need, that we've always had downtown, and it's the economic engine that drives the city of San Francisco. So for me, doing everything we can with our pocketbooks to bring that vibrancy back, to bring jobs back to the downtown core is a primary principle of my administration.
Thank you. Mayor, you got 30 seconds for the name check there.
I'd like a whole 1 minute and 30 seconds for a downtown response, please.
Can we start with 30 seconds?
Okay. First of all, downtown had over 45,000 people here this week for Dreamforce, and it was a huge success. We have more and more conventions coming back to our city, and more importantly, before the pandemic, we had so many regulations that made it difficult to make downtown a 24/7 neighborhood where people work, where they live, where they play. I don't know about you, but this past summer has been one of the best summers in our city, and especially downtown, with night markets and open space and raves and events and activation and fun. Downtown has never been fun, and we are introducing that to the downtown neighborhood and removing the barriers that have gotten away in the past that have made it difficult for us to make downtown more than just one thing or another.
Daniel Lurie, you got 30 seconds.
Sorry, we're
downtown.
running short on time. We want to give you guys time for closing statements if you would like to jump in for 30 seconds on downtown.
He wasn't. I don't think he wasn't named.
Well, he wasn't mentioned.
Okay. Well, listen. I'll talk. I'll talk downtown.
Marissa, he wasn't mentioned.
We need to transform. I have a plan for a new police station focused on our hospitality zone, from Yerba Buena Center to Moscone to the Civic Center. We need more police focused on our hospitality, so that our conventioneers, our shoppers, our tourists feel safe, and we don't have 3 overlapping police stations. And on day one, I'm announcing that we're going to have a San Francisco Downtown Development Corporation, bringing the best of the business, government, and civic leaders together, just like Lower Manhattan did after 9/11. We'll do the same thing here.
Thank you. Marisa, take us to closing statements and
That's right. This is time for our closing statements. We're going to allow each of you a minute to speak in the same order that you began. We'll start with you, Mayor Breed.
I became mayor in the middle of the night in a hospital room. I led San Francisco through its darkest time during the pandemic, and we saved lives. I am battle-tested and proven in a crisis. This is a serious job, and we have no time for on-the-job training. Yes, we've been through challenges, but under my leadership, crime is lower than it's been in 10 years. We are moving tents off the street. Downtown is coming back, and the city is looking and feeling so much better. Do we agree on everything that I do? I understand that we have had challenges in the past, but you know that no matter what, I know how to do this job. I know how to keep this city safe, and I will build upon the work that we have already done, and I will always put this city first. It's like our vice president has said, we're not going back.
Thank you, Mayor Breed. Ahsha, Safai.
Thank you. I want you all to walk away this evening and ask yourself one central question. Who has the vision, experience, and track record to fight for all San Franciscans? Not just the rich, but working and middle-class families. Of all the candidates on this stage, I have the most diverse set of experiences that I bring to this job. I worked for 2 mayors, Mayor Brown and Mayor Newsom. I was a deputy department head. I worked at Public Works. I ran my own small business. I worked for labor unions, organized labor for almost a decade, and I've been on the board for the last 8 years. This is not an entry-level job. You have to be ready for this job day one. And as your mayor, I promise you accountability and bold leadership. I'm proud to be endorsed by more labor unions than any other candidate on this stage, because I have fought for working and middle-class families since day one for the past 24 years. And I will fight for a safe, affordable, and thriving city for all San Franciscans. Please join me.
Thank you. Daniel Lurie?
The definition of insanity is electing the same people over and over again and expecting a different result. They've built up this corrupt system, then they exploit it. Then they have the audacity, like they did tonight, to tell you they're the only ones that can fix it. I have a proven track record of getting big things done. I started the largest poverty-fighting organization. It's innovative, one of the biggest ones in this country. I've gotten housing built on time and under budget with good-paying union labor. Mayor Ed Lee asked me to chair the bid to bring Super Bowl 50 here. $240 million of economic revenue came because of it, and now we have 3 more global sporting events coming over the next 2 years. I am proud of my track record. I was born and raised here. My wife and I are proud to be raising 2 young children here, and I am all in on this race.
Thank you. Mark Farrell.
Thank you, Marisa. So this election is going to come down to 2 questions. Are you satisfied? Are the residents of San Francisco satisfied with the leadership inside of City Hall? Or do you believe we need to turn the page and write a new chapter for San Francisco? I'm running for mayor because I love our city, and I believe we need change. After 6 years of failed leadership, we need to move the city of San Francisco in a different direction. I'm running for mayor because I believe experience matters. For any job in the world, experience matters. I've been mayor before. I'm the only one who's worked for 20 years in the business and finance industry outside of City Hall. Competence matters. When I was in office, we grew our police department to record staffing levels. As mayor, I cleared out all of our large tenant encampments. And when I left office, our economy was humming. And a strong vision for San Francisco matters. Please join me in my candidacy this year. And together, let's turn the page on San Francisco and let's write a new chapter together. Thank you.
Aaron Peskin.
Thank you all for participating in democracy this evening. I think you've heard some pretty stark differences between the candidates. I will protect renters from eviction. My opponents will not. I am a champion of affordable housing. They prefer luxury housing. I support the economic recovery of all of our neighborhoods. They just talk about downtown, downtown, downtown. I have a comprehensive homeless strategy with real solutions. They just talk about sweeps, which have been proven to be ineffective. I'm a grassroots candidate with over 3,500 contributions from teachers, nurses, artists, everyday San Franciscans, and that is exactly who I will fight for. My opponents are mostly supported by billionaires, and presumably that is who they will fight for. But the biggest difference between us is our vision for the future of San Francisco. I am fighting for a future that is affordable to all of us.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll join the nurses and the teachers and the service employees and the hotel workers and support my campaign.
That's going to do it for tonight. Thank you to all our candidates and the audience here and at home. And don't forget to vote. Have a good night.